2, 3, 4.
Shoo up, my sugar, shoo up, my little butterbean.
Down, diddy, down, 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 diddy, diddy, down, diddy, down, down, do I do it, down, diddy, down, down, you're so pretty, pretty, down, diddy, down, down. Ain't it funny how fun love can be? Diddy, 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 down, diddy, down, 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 diddy, diddy, down, diddy, down, down.
And the Norfolk Knitting School is open again. We have another class. And today I'm going to show you, today I have something for those of you who are knitters, or intermediate knitters. I'm hoping that the beginners are with me also. Maybe you could be practicing. I'm going to do some demonstration work. But, well, first I have a joke actually, and I thought of this myself. I'm almost ashamed to say it, but why did the lady knitting needle break up with her boyfriend, the male, I guess I'm being sexist, but the male knitting needle? Well, she felt she was being strung along. So, okay. Now, you may go into a yarn store and you may see some yarn that, like when I was coming along as a young knitter, the yarn was really just plain vanilla. Colors were horrible. There was no, none of these combined yarns that I've shown you in other classes. So you see some yarn that you just love, and you just want to let the yarn speak for itself. You just want to make maybe a t-shirt. Now, you can sit down and look for the patterns, and sometimes, there are basic patterns out there, but I get very impatient about patterns, and I like to just kind of get started. So what I'm going to show you is how you would, how you calculate how much yarn you need for the size sweater you're making. Now there are charts. They used to have these booklets, and sometimes in different books you'll see, but I don't know. I never really trusted them because it's really about the yarn that you're using. So what you're going to, I'm going to do this here. I did one at home, but I'm going to write it again over here for you. I'm going to do the, I'll write it out as we're going along. And if you want to look at this, other times, of course, as you know, we are on YouTube. So you would just go to the NCTV website, and there's a link to look at the shows. All right. So, of course, you're always going to start with your swatch. And in this case, you want to make it, and they always say to make it 4 inches by 4 inches. Okay, so that, you're going to put that aside. And actually, I had an experience this week preparing for the show where I started making that, a little miniature version of the vest that we talked about. I did my swatch. When the time came when I started knitting the little sweater, the gauge had changed. So most of the time when you see a gauge on a sweater pattern, I'm slightly getting off the topic here, but not really. When you look at sweater patterns, they will often give you the gauge done in stockinette. Now I don't know how they do the gauge in stockinette and then it transfers over to a pattern. I don't know how that's done. But I think the safe thing to do if you're going to work in a pattern, one of these ones I've been showing you in the body of your sweater, I would do the gauge in that pattern. I really would, because then you know what you're going to be doing. All right, so you have a swatch 4 by 4. So that would give you 16 square inches. Now, when you want to look at the sweater that you're going to make, you're essentially talking about rectangles. So I'm going to put a rectangle here, and I'm just going to come up with some numbers. Okay, so we'll call this the front or the back. And let us say that it's 20, you're going to make a sweater to fit you at 40 inches around. You might have a 38-inch bust. You might adjust it to your, whatever. But let's just for argument's sake. So we're going to have a 20 inches. That's going to, the ribbing would be in here. So we're going to include, and we're going to say that it's going to be, let's say, an 8-inch. You're going to leave 8 inches for your arms. And I think you saw in some of those other patterns, they showed these measurements. And then let's say in this case it might be a 14-inch down here, okay? So that would give us 22 inches here, 20 inches here. Now, the neck would be in here, I mean, unless you're going to make a boat neck, which is straight across, but we're not going to worry about that because we want to be sure of enough yarn. And yes, you can buy a couple of extra skeins, but you might not want to invest the money. Some of this yarn is really expensive. You just might want to know ahead of time, how much is this thing going to cost me? Okay, now, and then for the sleeves, let's say you're going to make a plain t-shirt. So we'll say that we'll have that 8-inch, and we'll have the sleeve. And let's just say we're going to consider that sleeve to be just a square, just like a regular t-shirt. So this is going to be, again, we've got 8 inches here, 8 inches here, and maybe we're going to say it might be a 5-inch long sleeve. So now we've got 40 square inches, 5 times 8, on half of the sleeve. So we're going to double that for the two sides of the sleeve because the sleeve has the front and the back. So that's 80 square inches of knitting for the sleeve. Here, I'm going to multiply 20 by 22, and that's giving me 400 square inches for the front. Double it, because you got your backs. You have 800 square inches. Let me hold this up for my Katie. Okay. I've got 800 square inches. All right, and now I'm going to add that over here. So 880 square inches. So that's taking care of 2 sleeves and 80, and then the front and the back. So 880 square inches. Now I go back up here to my swatch. And I know that I knitted up 16 square inches. So I'm going to divide 16 into 880, and I'm going to get what here? 5, which is 80. Okay, so 55. So 16 goes into 880, 55. Now let me make sure I've got the right. Okay. Oh, no, did I make, yeah, that's my 20, 22, 400. Oh, no, this is 440. What am I doing? 0 to. No, that's right, okay. And, sorry, 440. Good God, God help us. Okay, so it's 880, I'm sorry, 960. So we have 960 square inches. Sorry, let me do this again. Sorry about that. I was thinking it didn't look right. So I think that now this is going to be 6. Okay, so, all right, so we have 60. Okay, now, 16 square inches goes into 960 square inches 60 times. Now I unravel this. So this gets unraveled. I think it's the double L. And let's just say it's, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Let's just say it's 30 yards. So 60 times 30 I'd need 1,800 yards of this. And it probably wouldn't be 30 given this size, but you understand, I'm just pulling numbers out. So that's when then I go to my skein and I look and see how many yards are in a skein. And that's what I buy. Now, I'm also going to think to myself, now wait a minute, I allowed for this, so I've got some extra here. I also had the ribbing down here. Now, ribbing takes up more yarn than stockinette does. So it would be ribbing here, and there would have been the ribbing in here. So if you wanted, if you really wanted to, you could say, well, okay, if I did a swatch of ribbing, often the ribbing is 2 inches. All right, so that would be 40 square inches of ribbing, times 2, front and back would be 80. You could do yourself a swatch of ribbing the same way, and then think to yourself, well, all right, I've done this swatch of ribbing. If I do, say, a 2 by 4 inch swatch of ribbing, do the same thing again. So this would be my ribbing swatch, and then I would stop and think, well, okay, this is going to be 8 inches. What percent or what portion of the total amount of ribbing, the total inches of ribbing, square inches of ribbing, have I done here? How much yarn did this take? And then you do want to make sure you have enough yarn, and you can bring an unopened yarn, a skein of yarn back. But if you want to know how much it's going to take, this is what you do. So again, just to go back, and I hope I haven't made any mistakes with the numbers, but this is what you do. You get your swatch, 16 square inches. You figure here what this is going to be. I just pulled numbers out of the air. Whatever you need. And when you're making your sweater, most people measure their bust. And then there's also the question of ease. Now, ease would be an extra 1 or 2, sometimes people want more than that, inches beyond where your body is going to be. So that's something else to figure in. So you may, these numbers that you've got here, especially this width, should include the ease that you want. You might want the sweater to fit snugly, in which case you're not going to have any ease at all. So you do want to also figure that in. So you look at your length, your width, multiply it, you get the square inches of the front and the back. Just pretend as if there's no collar at all, as if this is all filled in. On your sleeve, remember the drawing that you make as you're looking at this needs a back as well, and there's 2 of them. Oh, you know what? That's what I did wrong. That was my mistake. I only figured for 1 sleeve. So it was 40 square inches. 5 times 8 is 40. The back, and so there would have been 2 more. God help me. So, okay, so when I was looking at this, something seemed wrong about the numbers. But the point is, this is the method. Front of the sleeve, the back of the sleeve, another one over here, front and back, and you look at your total square inches in the swatch, unravel it, measure the length of what you used to make that swatch, and then you multiply that, however many yards this probably was 30 yards is probably too. The number of yards of that swatch times the number of square inches that swatch held that went into your total square inches. So my numbers are off here in spite of the fact that I did this ahead of time. But anyway, that is the method to use, and I think it's a good one. I kind of came up with this myself. I'm sure I'm not the only person who ever thought of this, but it's good to know because a lot of times, people love to do all these stitches. We've been talking about the stitches, and some people really are good at that, and they love to do it. I find it kind of stressful. I'd like to be able to just take the knitting with me and go, or be able to watch TV and knit. So now, with all these yarns that are available, you can just, like I said, let the yarn speak for itself and have a very plain garment which you can then accessorize and to show off the yarn. Now, so again, speaking of stitches, I found this book. This is an old book. This was from the Montricot, And this was originally made in England. It's £2.50. And this is from 1980, and you can you can see the graphics that are so, the print and everything. And it was from 1981, I believe, printed in Italy. And I think I had told you that I didn't like to do lace. But I did want to show you a simple lace pattern that has a yarn over and show you. One day I did sort of clumsily sort of show you a yarn over, but it wasn't a very clear, and I didn't do a very good job. So, all right, this, and it's kind of a funny thing just to show you, the old illustrations and the classic patterns. And then, of course, from 1981, the illustrations are pretty, it was quite a strange time. We all wore some very strange things. So, and oddly enough, it was another thing. They do the indexes differently in the books in Europe. They're not in the front, they're in the back. But in this case, this one has no index whatsoever, so you have to go through like this to find the different sections of the book. It's just idiotic. Now, why these are fancy patterns and these are not, I don't know. This is also actually a cable right here, but they've got it all split up. But on page 59, it almost looks as if they made this before they. Well, there is some color in this book, but it's pretty grim to look at. But all right, so this little stitch here, campanula, I guess bells, I'm not sure. So okay, now they did not chart on here for you. This is all written out in Word. So I wrote it here, and this is it. Okay. Okay, so I have a right. No, actually, you know what? This is something different that I was going to show you. So I did some of it here, and I'm going to go through right now and have you watch me knit this. So it was a multiple of 5. So I have 15 stitches here. 15. All right. Now, I believe what I did was, the last thing I knitted was knit 3, purl 2. I think now I'm ready for this next. And that's the trick. That's why I don't really like lace, because you've really got to, I didn't make a note to myself where I finished up here. So, but I'm going to, what you do is, here, as you see, you knit the stitches as they come up. So I've got the 2 knit stitches here, so I'm going to start with that. So I think I'm probably right about here. Knit 2, purl 3, row 2 and alternate rows. There's a 5-row repeat. So all right, purl 3, knit 2, purl 3. So I haven't heard from anybody on the email complaining about me going too fast or going too slow or what have you. So either that means nobody's watching or I'm doing okay. So I guess I'll assume it's the latter. All right, now, so okay. Okay, and knit 3, purl 2, so that will take me to row 3. Knit 3, purl 2. knit 3 and purl 2. All righty. Okay. All right. Now, this is an old book, anyway, 1981. What is that? 40 years ago. Now, this WRN, now nowadays they call it a yarn over, and it's a YO. In those days, it was wool round needle to make one. So, I'm sorry, I thought I had copied these out. I'm sorry, I got a little mixed up last night. Slip 1, knit 2 together. Now, anytime you make a lace stitch, you're going to wrap the yarn around the needle. That makes the hole, that creates the lace. But then you've got to knit 2 together somewhere along the line to bring the numbers back together. So, all righty. Okay. Now, what I didn't understand about this pattern was they've got you right, I guess they wanted you to make a border, which I didn't do here. I should have really made a border because they start you right out wrapping the needle. And I'm going to be knitting, so I'm going to go like this, excuse me, like that. So I've got my yarn around my needle. I slip 1, knit 2 together, and that means I've got to go this way like this. I can't go this way. I've got to go this way here, knit 2 together. Okay. And now the one that I slipped, I pass over. And now I do another one. Go around the needle, knit 2 together. Oh, I'm sorry. Good God. You know what oops. Okay. All right. See, I almost knit 2 together and slip 1 over. And then I go again, knit 2 together, slip. Sorry. See that I'm not. See, this is not in my comfort zone. But I thought I should show it to you. Okay. All right. Okay. Slip 1, knit 2 together. You wouldn't think I practiced this last night, but I swear that I did. And pass over. Now you see, as we're going along here, there's the hole. That's for Katie. There's the hole. There's the hole. And there's the hole. And I think actually, I think I may have, I think I've done something wrong here, but we'll forge ahead. And then I knit 2 together and pass over. Okay. Okay. Now what I did wrong was this shouldn't be here, but we'll forge ahead. Now this was all done correctly down here, and if you look here and see, so this is the sample, and there's mine to the left of it. So now I'm going to knit 3 and purl 2. So I go ahead and knit. I knit into the hole. That's my new stitch. And purl 2. And you just go right ahead and knit right over that. Knit 3. Yeah, this is where the mistake is here. And purl 2. Well, for some reason it came out right in the end. I don't know what. Well, yeah, this doesn't but well, no, wait a minute. Something is wrong here, but I did want you to see me do the, and I'll do it. You know what I'll do? I'll do another one. I'll do it properly. So now I've got knit 2 and purl 3, And as you see now, I've just got regular stitches, ordinary knit and purl stitches. And purl 3. Why this is coming out even, I have no idea, because I did make this mistake. But there's the... Now as I continue to go up, I'll get this little, I'll have this little thing showing up in here, that this little... So that is lace, that is a very kind of primitive lace pattern. The point is it does have the little holes in it, so I did want to show that to you. Alrighty, now I'm going to pull this off, and I thought I would show you something that's valuable to know. I'm going to take one of my other swatches here, and I'm going to need to tie on some yarn. This was from last. I'm just going to. I mean, I really don't. Well, actually, I really don't even need that. Now, if you will go along in your knitting, and this is, well, of course, right now, okay, it's garter here, and knitting. Okay. Now, if you drop a stitch, this is what's going to happen. It just ladders right down, and people see this, and they say, oh, dear God, what am I going to do now? Now, the easiest way to fix it, it's very easy to fix, but to fix it, you need to understand what's happening here. So this, the first thing you do, you grab that stitch. I'm going to show you how to do it with just the knitting needles, because it could be that you don't have a crochet hook handy. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to go back, and make sure, now where you run into a little trouble if you don't pick up all of those strands back there. So before, when you see, I'm going again, I'm picking up again, and again, and I've got my stitch back. And it's going to look a little rough there, but it will fill in. And then you want to go back here and look and make sure that you pulled up everything that you dropped, which I did. So I'm doing, thank God I did that right. All right, so I'm going to take this over. I'm going to go over to the garter stitch and see what happens if I drop a stitch over there, because I know some of you are still making your scarves. Okay, so now here I am in garter. Of course, so I'm still knitting, but now I've dropped the stitch. Now what do I do? Well, now I have to look and see what's coming next here. So I'm looking here to the left. I've got to do a knit stitch. Bring this in. But because I'm knitting every row now, I've got to do which would look like a purl, and I know that's confusing, that terminology. So I click like this, I grab it, take it through, up. Okay, now I've got two back there. I have a knit, because I see here, I've got the purl here on the side. So now I go back, grab this, do it as a knit. And I want to end up with my little bump, so I go in and there. And there I am, and I'm back. Now, I'll show you that another time, because I know that's kind of hard to see, and really. I think next time I do it, I'm going to use a thinner needle, so that because these needles are not, well, first of all, they don't match, but they're not very pointed. So I'm going to show you that again, because it's absolutely invaluable to know how to pick your stitches up so you don't have to go running off to somebody, or worse, say, oh, I can't do this, and toss it out. So we're going to go for recess. It's time for recess, and I'll see you back here, I hope, at the Norfolk Knitting School.
Shoo-up, shoo-ah, hey honey, shoo-up, shoo-ah. Look, see, shoo-up, shoo-ah. It's funny, shoo-up, wop, what silly love can be. Down, diddy, down, da, down, da, down, diddy, diddy, down, diddy, down, da, down. Do-ah, do-a, down, diddy, down, da, down. You're so pretty, pretty, down, diddy, down, da, down.
Oh, you came back, thank God. Listen, this was a horror show of numbers. I mean, another time, what I'll do is, for next time, I will go home and make another one like I have here. This was the one I did last night that makes sense. And, I don't know. This was the one I did last night, and I should have just stuck with this, but I'll bring this back. I'll bring another one in and have the numbers that make sense, because it's just, it's impossible. As Mr. Steve Gay pointed out to me, would you be likely to have 30 yards in a 4x4? Now, actually, I'm going to defend myself here, because if you were working 6 or 7 or 10 stitches to the inch, as they did in the old days, and they made these little tiny needles, which I had showed you, I think, the first time, these crazy, ridiculous needles that nobody ever uses anymore. Who knows? I mean, I've only got one number one. Who knows? And if it's real fine yarn, so it's unlikely, and so that's why the numbers. But if you're making a big sweater, you're a big person, and you're making a big sweater, you could very well go into 1,000. You could go into 1,000, 1,200, even 1,200 yards, and it all depends on what's in that skein. All righty. Now, I mentioned last time, I was talking about the word pearl, and the lady pig farmer who didn't want to cast her, a knitter, who gave up knitting so that she would not cast her pearls before swine. And I went to look up the origin of the word pearl. I kind of love words. And I found it was a Scottish word. It came from the word P-I-R-L, which meant twisted, and it was referred to a twisted gold or silver thread that was used for embroidery. Now, in another website said it was Middle English as opposed to Scottish, and that purling was, and I'll have Katie put this on the bottom of the screen, that purling, P-I-R-L-Y-N-G, purling, meant to embroider with gold or silver. It also meant to revolve or twist. Comes from approximately the 14th century. There's another, also the origin could be from the Italian word pirolare, which meant to twirl, which is where the word for the top, the toy top, which is a pirolo. So there you are with that. Now, okay. Now this is, okay, I started making, remember I showed you, I did this drawing for this vest that I thought we might make together, and I'm making a small version of it, and I wish I had a picture of it. If you want to go online, if you look for Penny Straker, it'll be at the bottom of the screen, Penny Straker, and I can't, it was a vest, and I can't remember the name of the vest, I'm awfully sorry, but I'll find that out and get it for the graphics. And there's a picture of it, and they say, these are really, really old patterns from like the 60s, and they say where you can buy them, this and that. I don't know where mine is anymore, but what it is, and if you want to just look here again, it's ribbing across the bottom as normal, and then stockinette if you wish, a pattern if you wish. I'll show you what I did, and then up here at the bodice, which would be right at the bottom of the armhole, is ribbing. And as I explained to you, it saves you from having to put ribbing or finish off the armhole, because you're going to have a knit stitch on either side. So here's what I did. I do this little one. Now, here's the right side, because you can tell because of the bottom here. This was done in 7. This was done in 4. And I went down three needle sizes. Most of the time, so here's the 4 right here. So here's my 7, here's the 4. And when you look at this, you'll see how it has pulled it in. You can just see how, oh great, Katie. Now doing that rolling here, because stockinette, which is on the other side, so here's stockinette, purl, stockinette, and purl, but this is going to be the right side, and you'll see how this goes to sort of, and so what I did was, the number of stitches I cast on, I've got 4 here, I've got 3 here. Now that's not a big deal. What I wanted to do was to bring this down. Oops, the heck's going on here? The revolt of the. What I wanted to do was have this design come right down like this. And I did show you in the Sally Melville book where they had done, actually the man's sweater was like this. It was knit 3. This is knit 5. It was knit 3, purl 1. So you had this look, but I like this. Now, here's what happened to me last night. I did a swatch, and I don't like doing swatches. You got to do swatches, but I find it boring. I didn't do a real big swatch, and I came up with 5.5 to the inch. Once I, oh, thank goodness, it was right at the top. Thank goodness. Okay, when I went to check this, I see that I've got 6 to the inch. Now let me see that this is what's kind of good about knitting and what's bad about knitting. It can be very forgiving in a lot of ways. If you make something that's maybe a little too big, you can kind of take it in, or if it's small, it might move and stuff. But where it's a problem is with this business of the gauge and being able to exactly. So there you see, I've actually got 6 stitches to the inch. See, there's 5 here. These are 5. And then this one here. So that means that this is going to fit smaller than I thought. So earlier in the show, in the class, I mentioned that you should really do that swatch in the pattern stitch. And the other thing too here is that I've got such a small, tight ribbing here, and this is so small. I mean, this is like a third of what it would be. This is about 6, well, in my case, this is about a fourth of what I would have for one side of a sweater. I'd probably do it 24 inches across and then 24 in the back, 48 inches. So so what I'm going to do now is, now if you're making this with me, of course, obviously you're going, and I'm going to talk about your size in a moment. You would be making this longer. I'm just showing you that even if I were to make this as a miniature sweater, I'd make this a little longer. But for argument's sake, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to start the top of the vest. So I want this knit stitch that's going all the way down here. Okay, just go all the way up on my ribbing. So I'm going to have to see now. Let me see. So I've got knit, purl, which means I'm going to start this with a purl. Now I don't know how that's going to look. I don't think that's going to look so good. I would be better if I had the knit on the end. So I'm going to make an extra stitch here. And you know something? Nobody's going to see it. I'll tell you right now. I mean, it's you'll know it's there. And I told you about my perfectionistic friend who took a scissor I'm trying to remember if I was there that day when she took a sweater, and took a scissor and took what she'd done in the sweater and just cut it to ribbons. I don't know whether I was there or I imagined it, but I mean, it did happen. I know it happened. But I mean, that's no way to enjoy yourself. That ain't no way to have fun, as the song used to say. So now I've got knit. Oh, sorry. I need to go with my other needles. Now again, as I said, because I want this to pull in, so I'm going to go with my 4 needle. I almost forgot. Now, as I said, most of the time you don't drop down 3 sizes, but I happen to have these here in front of me last night, and I said, oh, let me use those. And I thought I would make it a little bit more, you know, just to make it a little bit more obvious. Okay, so I'm purl, knit, purl, and knit. I'm going to go right across here. And if you can just be patient, so let me do a few of these rows. There was another thing I forgot to mention, to tell you about last time, talking about ripping out knitting. You can take that yarn that you have ripped out, and I believe I told you that you can go ahead. Okay, so there we go. See, and okay, we'll see that. We'll see that in a few minutes. If you can just be patient, or if you want to. Now, see, this is where you can make a little mistake, is because you think, okay, I'm just going to go along and knit, and all of a sudden you realize you're not doing ribbing after all. You know, you're following the pattern stitch, so you want to pay a little bit of attention till you get started. Once you get started, you'll see what you have to. You'll knit the stitches as they come up, be they a knit stitch or a purl stitch. So with that yarn that you've ripped out, you can take it. Now, some people just wrap it back up in a ball. What you really should do is kind of make a big hank out of it, kind of wrap it up kind of in a loose, kind of like you'd wrap a hose, and tie it off on either end so that you'd have these big circles of yarn, and then take a little, either scrap yarn or the same yarn, tie it on both ends, or tie it in 4 ends, so you'd have this big loop, tie it, and put it in some cold water, and let it relax. And it will relax, and then you can put it back into a sweater. You won't have the crimp, because depending upon what stitch you'd use the next time, the crimp might show. I mean, there's no reason to. Okay, now, all right, now I'm ending on a knit here, because if you remember, I said I had 4 here and 3 over here. So now I've got 4 stitches here, and then and 4 here. So I'm going to have and so I'm going to go over here now, and so now this is my wrong side, because I've got these, as you can easily see, as any fool can plainly see, as they used to say. And let me just do this one other row. Okay, so there. And I'll just go right across here. I probably should be knitting a little more slowly for those of you that are still learning, so let me slow down. Well, we just got word, just for something to say here so that the silence isn't too deafening. We just got word, today the 7th? Yes. Today's the 7th, and so tomorrow, as of right now, and it's about coming up on 2 o'clock, they're planning on going ahead with the, oh, now you see what I did? I did exactly what I told you not to do, which was I wasn't paying attention to my ribbing, and I went ahead and I knitted. So now I'm going to have to do this. Well, may as well watch and learn, okay? This should be a pearl. Boy, if this, I hope my husband doesn't see this show because he'll be all puffed up. Okay, now this will be a knit. This should have been a pearl. I'm going to make it into a pearl. Huh, the very thing I told you not to. You know, I probably made the mistake, and then I'm thinking, oh, you know, I don't want them to make that mistake, and then I had to go, all right, okay, knit, now I'm back. Okay, back to, not good. But you know, I hate it when everybody acts like everything is so easy and everything is so smooth, and you just do this, you just do that, and you know, so it's okay. Because you know, then you know you're going to make mistakes. I make mistakes, and even those ladies that sit over there at the D's Nimble Needles. No, maybe not. And so, okay, now, I don't know if you can see this, but it's going to pull back in. And you see this? See how you see this kind of a bowing out here? That's because I'm on a 4 needle, and I'm bringing this in. And you may say, well, gee, that's not really going to, but it will look fine. Let me just do one more row if I may, and we'll move on to something else. So I do wish, I would love to hear from people. So it's ambattistone@hotmail.com. And I know some people are watching because some people have made little remarks, but I don't know if they're actually learning to knit. But I mean, I got to tell you, this is a wonderful hobby. It's portable. I mean, well, again, depending on what you're making. If you're knitting a great big Afghan, maybe not. But for the most part, it's portable, and it's just I find it to be very, very satisfying and very rewarding. You know, that when that moment comes, and it's very exciting when you go to put that sweater on, and you're starting to put the sides together. And you're starting to see, is it going to fit? Is it going to be okay? And you may say to me, well, Anne-Marie, don't you plan it so it is going to be okay? Yes, but next time I'm going to bring over a couple of sweaters that I made where I made did a terrible mistake with the sleeve. And I can wear it, but the sleeve really is too small. And I didn't think it's going to be. I should have known. I should have planned it a little bit better. So there. Okay. So that gives you a little bit better idea. That shows you what's going to look like. I think it looks great. I think it looks really good. And you do want to use the same size because you want to have this. But of course, remember this will be much longer. But this is now where your armhole is going to start up here, and then. Before the next show, I'll finish doing this, and I'll show you how you'll finish off the neck, because we're going to just go right straight across. All righty. Now, I had said something to you about another knitting pattern here that last time I couldn't find, but it was here all along. This was the one that, I don't know if you remember, this was the one that we did that is here. That's this one here. Okay, sorry, Katie. That's this. And this is the big. And this one here is, all right, this is this. And I don't know if you remember me saying that I was showing you last week that how much this looked like garter, but it is not garter. It's pearl on the wrong side. Excuse me. Pearl on the right side, knit on the wrong side, but then you have this extra one in between here. And so there's what I did, and I'm going to do a few more of them. I do a few more rows here now. All right. right, so we've got, all right, so I assume that I'm probably on, I think I'm on, wait a minute, I think I've got to undo this row here. I think this row is not right. Let me go back and undo this. And I think I had showed you, this is it's very, very easy to do, to just simply unknit. Wait a second. Dipsy doodle. Okay. Okay. Let me go back and kick this back the other way. Let me finish this. I honest to God, this is terrible. I'm just flummoxed over that ridiculous number business. I'm still a little, so I apologize. I'm a little flustered about all that. Okay, so I'm just gonna unknit this. Now, what you need to do when you do these knit and purl patterns, you really should mark your rows as you go. And I didn't do that here, so you have to. It's helpful to do that so that you know where you are when you put your yarn down. Now, this friend of mine that cut the sweater up with the scissors, every row in that sweater, no matter whether it was stockinette, whether it was all garter, whatever, every row on that sweater was annotated and marked and on a piece of paper. And I don't know, and yes, you know, when she finished that sweater was done right, and that meant a lot to her, and it was worth it to her to be, you know, obsessive and write everything down. To me, it sort of took the joy out of knitting. All right. Okay. Ready. All right, so we're on the wrong side, so that means I'm going to purling here. Excuse me. Now let me show you something here. Now I'm saying to myself, now wait a minute, where the heck am I going here? So can you see in here, Miss Katie, you see right in there, you've got that one coming up and that one coming out of it. So that's what I need to do here. I don't know if you can see. Let me get another here. Let's see if I can show you here. I'm sorry. I really should be doing this on great big needles. I'm sorry. See how this is, see, right in there. See, I got this one in here and this one in here. I don't know I hope you can see that. So that's how I know. And I'd done the wrong. So now that's going to all look right there. So, all right. Now, okay, again, I don't know if you can see. Oh, good girl. Right in there is where we're looking. You see that? And you see that one? Very good. Okay, so that means I need to do this. And now this will have to be, okay, here I've got this here. This will have to be, so now I'm going to go across, and I'm going to purl across because I'm going to have this little stitch here. Let's see if I'm right. And I believe I am. Okay. And there we are. Okay, so that's the way that's supposed to come. And now here's a little bit of advice for you. My experience has been, and I may catch some flack for this comment, but it won't be the first time, and it won't be the last. I have found that a lot of the women who run knitting stores, and it's pretty much exclusively a woman's domain, I find them to be kind of persnickety and there we go. I think this looks quite. I think this would look really very nice in a sweater, or in your scarf. I mean, there's no reason to have to be stuck with garter stitch. And I wish it weren't called that because it's a little confusing because one side is knit and one side is purl. So, which is stockinette, and every knit is every row, and I call it garter. So but do not let them intimidate you or make you nervous because they should, they should want to help you, and they do, and of course they want to make the sale. But I find them to be a little bit. I can't say the B word, so but you got it. You got the message, and you don't want to, you don't want to be discouraged by that. And those of you who are beginners, you're going to be going over to Michael's. You're going to be getting that great big skein of impeccable yarn there with a huge amount of yardage for $4. And you're going to be working with that. So you just go into Michael's, you buy it, and you leave, and you got your needles. But don't let them put you on edge. I was in a yarn store the other day I was in Tiverton, or I was in, Tiverton, I think I was in, or Little Compton. Very, very wealthy place, very expensive shop. And she was kind of, crabby with me, but what I can say, I'm an old lady, and those things really don't bother. But don't let it bother you, especially if you're a young knitter, just let that roll over you. Well, it's time again for us to stop. I'm so sorry to stop. Hope you're sorry I'm stopping. And we'll see you next time, and I'll do a better job with the I'll do that, show you that method again, and I won't have it all mixed up this time. So thank you to Dawn, and thank you to Katie, and thank you to Mr. Steve Gay, who is my director, I believe, if I'm right. And we'll see you next time at the knitting school.
Shoo-up, my bee. Shoo-up, shoo-up, my sugar. Shoo-up, up, my little butterbean.
Down, diddy, down, 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 diddy, diddy, down, diddy, down, down, do I do it, down, diddy, down, down, you're so pretty, pretty, down, diddy, down, down. Ain't it funny how fun love can be? Diddy, 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 down, diddy, down, 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 diddy,